All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to install Visual Studio Code on a Windows device. So I'm going to minimize this. And then the goal with this is such that we have use of the debugger. So let's see, I just downloaded OBS so I could actually record this tutorial. But anyway, I Googled Visual Studio Code. And then I pressed the download button and it took me to this page. So download in top right corner. And then you identify your device. Mine's is Windows. So I had clicked on Windows and then I followed the prompt there. So now um, I should have the installation in my downloads folder, and then there it is. And then this is an executable file. So it's going to run the installer and it's going to perform all the setup. So I'm going to click on it. Okay, so it's currently running. Actually X out of this, but here we go. Yes, so I had clicked on it before. So you're going to go through the agreement. You're going to just kind of, I tend to skim over these, and then I accept, and then next, and then I have some options here. I'm going to read them briefly. Um, so we have, okay, so I want a desktop icon, add open code action. No, no. Yes, yes. And then you're going to notice here, it's quite small. Let me see if I can zoom. I can't zoom in on this one. It says add to path, requires shell restart. Click that. Make sure that that box is checked. So then I'm going to say next. Setup is now ready to begin installing Visual Studio Code on your computer, and I'm going to review. Okay, yes, I asked for a desktop icon. I asked to register code as an editor for supported file types. Yep. Add to path, very important. Make sure you checked that button, and then I'm going to press install. Okay, and with Movie Magic, I am going to come back when the installation is complete. This is going to take some time. All right, so now I've opened up Visual Studio Code, which is now installed on my device. So I need to go to the extensions view. So that's one of these here. So there's Explorer, Search, Source Control, Run and Debug, and Extensions. So it's this one. So I click on Extensions. And I need to search for and install the extension for the language we want to use. And in this case, it's C++. So I entered C++ into the search, and I'm actually, I'm going to widen this out a little bit so I can kind of see what I'm doing here. And we have C/C++, IntelliSense debugging and code browsing. And then we have some popular extensions. It's an extension pack. And then we have some UI themes. So I'm actually going to install this one first. Oh, it looks like it's pre-installed. Great. So I'll check the other one, and then this is probably fine. So I already have C++ here, so I don't need to worry about that anymore. Now, I need to open the folder that contains the code that I want to run. Currently, I don't have anything, so I can just make that. So I need to create a new file, and I'm going to call it, let's just say main.cpp. It's going to be a C++ file, and it's asking me where I'd like to save it, and it doesn't matter. But you see, so it looks like it's defaulting to GitHub. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to save it to my desktop, and then I will. This is fine. I'll just do this. So I will include some directives. I'm just going to make a boilerplate. And it's not auto-completing for me, which tells me that maybe something is going on with my installation. So just a second. And then just something kind of like that. And then I save. Okay, so now I have some code. I'm going to close this tab. So now I have some code. And you know what? I've also noticed that I'm not working in any specific folder. So I'm actually going to, I'm just going to make sure that looks good. Okay. So I'm working on the desktop where the file is located. So I'm just going to say, yes, I trust everything here. That's where main is. Right. Okay, so now I want to open this back up. Now I want to run and debug. So I need to click on the very top right up there. It's kind of like a little icon of a bug and a play button. And then Visual Studio Code is going to suggest options based on our file type when we press it. So since it's C++, it's gonna try to recommend the GDB debugger on our setup, and then it's going to create a .vs code slash launch JSON file in the project folder with the debugger settings that we need to define. So I'm going to press this, and then I'm gonna briefly read these like I mentioned before. G++, active file, and then let's see, and then we also have GDB launch, Windows launch. This one should be fine. It's G++, so I'm just going to click it, and then I'm going to press the run button. So this one, let's see, CMake. It wants us to put in CMake. Don't worry about that yet. Like I mentioned before, we're going to configure the JSON file that gets automatically created when we do this step. So still running. Just go ahead and bear with me here as it builds. Okay. And now, in order for us to do the debugging process, we need to create something called the breakpoint. So I'm actually going to, I don't know if you can see this very well, but if you move to the very left, and then I'll make this a little smaller. If you move to the very left of the line indication, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you go to the left, you're going to see a very faint red circle. Just go ahead and put one before, just kind of wherever you want. In our case, we're going to put it right here in this part of the code. This is called the breakpoint. And what this does is it sets up an area for the debugger to stop at, or well, the program when it's running to stop there. And then it's kind of like taking a snapshot of the running of your code. So your code is doing different things at different times during its lifetime, during the runtime. And this would be like a snapshot. So we'll put this here, and that means that the running will stop here, just stop here, and we'll be able to kind of look at what's happening behind the scenes. And then there's options to move the next step, move to the next line, move line by line, or just like continue the whole thing because maybe you did what you wanted to do already. So I'm going to press run and debug. And then I'm going to pick G++, GDB, LLDB. So this one's suggested, so I pick whatever suggestion. If something else is suggested to you, you'd probably press that. So it's running. And it paused here. And this is what I was mentioning before, how when we create the breakpoint, it creates an area for the program to pause and to show us, okay, what's happening. So I hover over here. So I'm hovering over things, and it's saying const car 13, index 13, hello world. So it's showing me what's happening in the back end. There's more that we can do with this, and we will. So I'm actually going to first show you up here, and then we'll do something else with this. But there's a continue button here at the top, and this is to continue running the code. So break out of the debugger, just continue to go and run the rest of the code. There is step over. And step over is used to go to the next line. So if I press this button, it's going to go to the next line, which says return 0 semicolon. And then there's also step in 2. And you use step in 2 when you're on top of like a function call, and that'll cause you to go into the code that is defined in the function call. So you'll be able to like walk through the inside of what the function is doing. And this is very important because, sometimes you're trying to debug your program, you can't find it. Well, maybe it's in the one of the functions, one of the many functions that you might make up. So you'd need to know, okay, if I'm hovering over a function call, if I press step over, it's not going to show me all the code that's being ran inside. So what I need to do if my next step is a function call and I'm on that line, then you would press step in 2. And then there's step out, and I don't really use this. I imagine it's to step out of, if you're in a function call, to just move on to the next line and get out of the function definition. to restart, and then to stop debugging. So I'm actually just going to press continue from here, or no, I'll press step over. Oh, let me do that. And then you see here it goes to the next line like I said it would. I'm just going to continue it now. And then that's it. And that's what the debugger does. I mentioned to you that I wanted to do a little bit more with this. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to change up my code a little bit. Okay, so now I've created a piece of code that includes a function call. And currently I still have my breakpoint at int num1. To remove the breakpoint, you simply just click on it and then it's gone. But I want it here, so I click here so I can have it. Because I want to demonstrate this debugging process again, and then maybe you can follow along if that helps. And if you got it, you got it. So I changed up my code and I saved it. Now I'm going to run and debug it again. So I'm clicking on that. I'm just waiting. Okay. Okay. So the breakpoint, we stop at the breakpoint. The program is stopping there. It's pausing there. And then I'm going to press step over. So now I have two variables, num1 and num2. They're storing 5 and 10. And then I get to a line that has a function call in it. That's this here. And as I hover over this, you're going to see that there's some kind of, it's a little bit dark. There's kind of some verbiage above it. And there's a hex address. There's the name of the function, the parameters in it. You'll see before, int, it returns an int, and then two parameters that are both ints. And so the debugger kind of allows you to see all this stuff. So this is kind of what's happening. So it's at this hex address, and it's going to return an integer. It has two integers as parameters, and I want to go in. I want to go into this. So this line contains a function call. So I'm going to press step into, which is this down arrow. So I press it. And then you notice that we actually go into the function definition. And I only have one line for this, so it's not like super elaborate or anything, but it's just to demonstrate that, it works. So I also want you to keep an eye on what's happening on the left side. So I'm going to open this a little bit, and then you're going to see that there's a call stack here. And so for now, what got placed on the stack was that function. So when a function gets called, it's placed on the call stack, and then, whatever happens, happens. So, and then recall that a call stack is like a temporary storage. So the once this is done, it's popped off of the call stack, and we're done. I'm going to go ahead and look inside here. Like I mentioned before, I mainly use Visual Studio Code to run C++. And then I'll talk a little bit more after this as well. There's some other stuff, some compiler stuff that we don't need to worry about, that we don't need to do. You don't have to show any explicit knowledge of that in your exams. Exam 1, where you express how to use the debugger, you don't need to know what all this stuff is doing. But this call stack here, it was just to show you kind of, all right, your function gets called, you go here. However, I want you to look on the left, and you're going to see some variables here. So we have a local variable, num1, num2, and it's showing you what's stored inside. If you were working on a more complex program, these values might change through the runtime, and then here you would be able to reference them here. This is how it looks in Visual Studio Code. It's a little bit different in Visual Studio. Remember, those are two different things. So I'm going to go to the next line. I'm going to step over now. And it just kind of goes to that line there with the curly brace, and then it goes to return 0. Okay, so I'm going to press continue, and then it's going to end. And what you need to show in exam 1 is that you know how to use the debugger. You know how to make breakpoints and step over and step into functions. And you also need to show me how you know what each value is at that place in time during the runtime. Just because again, these values might change, and you need to know how to access them, identify them. But yeah, so that would be how to use the debugger in Visual Studio Code. I did mention earlier, I think I had mentioned something about a launch.json. I got confused because I use Visual Studio Code on my Linux device, And it does 100% require you to have a JSON file, like a launch.json file, that you stipulate kind of what the conditions are for your debugger. It's a lot more involved. And I thought this would be the same. It wasn't. It's much easier, which is good. So if you're using a Windows device, then you would just follow these instructions to enable the debugger. And then again, if you have any questions, we can meet, talk about it. Um, yeah, there's also Visual Studio, and I can show you a little bit about that. Just give me half a second here, and I'll open it up. Okay, so that's Visual Studio Code. And, if you're going through this and you still kind of feel like, well, I don't know if I want to do that, or, something's up, or, maybe you're using something that isn't working, you can also download Visual Studio, which is free. So I'm going to say Visual Studio. Okay, so Visual Studio Code is this blue one here. It's kind of like a half infinity sign. That's Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio is the purple one. That's kind of like a full asymmetric infinity sign, I guess. And so I'm going to actually click here where it says Visual Studio. I'm not going to download it. I already have it. You can kind of see the icon on the bottom. But you would say download Visual Studio, this one. It gives you the option to download Visual Studio Code. You already have that. So I say download Visual Studio, and I scroll down. Uh-oh. It downloaded the executable. That's okay. I could just delete it. But there is a community edition, which is free. There's also like an enterprise edition and some other stuff, and that's paid, so you wouldn't want any of those. So I'm not going to run the executable, but you would install it in a very similar manner to Visual Studio Code. If you have trouble there, just let me know. I'm going to go ahead and open Visual Studio 2022. Oh, and then I also wanted to mention that with Visual Studio, you need to during the settings process, it's going to ask you what to install. Like it'll suggest some things like .NET Framework versus Visual C Sharp or something like that. You want to pick the things that are pertaining to C++. I wonder if I open the executable. I wonder if I run the executable, will it show me? Because I do want to show it to you, so I'm going to say yes. Let's see. So just give me a second here. So I'm gonna say continue. Oh, just getting that ready. I don't know if this is gonna mess things up for you since I already have it, but I do want to show it to you. So I'm just gonna wait here for a second, and then hopefully it'll take me to the screen where I can specify. Hold on. So it wanted me to update, but I said no to it. Now, what I did do was I said, okay, I'll update it. And so it's showing me a screen that is very similar, if not the same as the one that you're going to see during the setup. And this is the part of the setup that asks you, what things you want to install as part of Visual Studio, as part of this application. So, like I mentioned before, you're going to see, .NET, there's some Azure stuff. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. You want to pick C++. So you would just say desktop development with C++, build modern C++ apps for Windows, etc. We don't need mobile development, so I'm just gonna leave that alone. And then I'm kind of looking over here at language packs, just make sure that you've set it to English. And then on the right side, you're gonna see kind of what is included. So some C++ core desktop features, some other items that we're probably not going to use for the rest of the class, but you're going to get IntelliSense and you're going to get some of the other items that you want so that you can compile and run this code. So I'm actually going to press close. I'm going to X out of this because I don't need to do that step. But like I mentioned before, you might. So I'm going to go ahead and open Visual Studio. And let's see, I have some programs here from another class that I'm teaching. So I'm actually going to create a new project. And I'm going to need to make a C++ project for this. So when I press create a new project, go to the top, and then I'm going to say C++, and then it's Windows, and then desktop. So I'm just going to say Windows desktop application. Project for an application with oh, we don't actually need a GUI. Let me see if I can do something else here. So I'm going to go through it. Might end up doing it anyway, but I'm just going to, I think console should be correct. Yeah. Okay, this is correct. So we have C++, Windows, and then console. And then it says empty project, start from scratch, or you can have something that prints hello world by default. Sometimes I pick this one because I believe it includes the boilerplate. So I'm going to click this one instead. And I'm going to say next. And then I'm just going to call it testing, C++ or something. And then I have, see, currently I have it. Yeah, it's fine if it goes here. I'll erase it later. But I'm also going to place the solution and project in the same directory. I'm going to say create. And sometimes it takes a couple seconds, especially depending on what type of application it is, it might take longer. But it sets up the project for you. And then here we go. There we are. So like I mentioned before, it looks like that one includes some boilerplate stuff, which is really convenient. So I'm just going to get rid of all these comments. It says some shortcuts for how to debug, how to run, some tips. So, you could read those at your leisure. But this is sufficient, right? Well, not exactly. Let's add some stuff. So we're going to say int, and then we're going to say, let's do the nums again. Num1 equals 5. Actually, let's copy and paste this code over. So sorry. So I'm going to go here. Yeah, let's copy and paste this because essentially I just need to show you how to do this on Visual Studio. So I'm going to press save all. You can also press save in this case because there's only one file. Save all will save all of the files, like if you're working in multiple files, which you should be doing in this class later on. And then save just this single floppy disk is just to save the file that is open right now that you're looking at. So now I have some code. I'm going to set up a breakpoint, and then you do it in the same way you do in Visual Studio. You click on, let's see, how do we do this? You click here. So in Visual Studio Code, you click to the direct left, so next to the value. But there's actually this kind of bar here on the left, and you would just click there. So I set up a breakpoint. And I'm going to say local Windows debugger. There's start without debugging here, this icon on the right, and then there's to start with debugging. And so I'm going to click that. And it's compiling, so that takes some time. Okay. And it looks like the debugger has stopped here. So it stopped at a breakpoint, like we said. On the right, you're going to see some diagnostic tools, and this can come in handy if you have something going on with your code and you're like, oh no, like next week we're going to do recursion. If you have like something going on with your memory and it's like filling up really fast, this bar is like going really fast, like you might have something wrong with the function you try to do. You don't really need to know how to read all this. Yeah, you don't need to do that. What I do need you to look at is down here. So I'm going to open this up a little bit. You can see your variables currently. Right now, num1 doesn't store anything because this line hasn't run yet. When I press step over, so those tools are up here. So this is step over. That would be step into. Very similar to Visual Studio Code. So I'm just going to press step over. And now the value of num1 has changed to 5, which is what we expect, right? So that this line up here has just finished running. And so now we're going to look below that. And so this would be num2, and currently it's 0 because we're looking down here. And then I press step over. Okay, so now it's 10. And now this arrow shows me what line we're on. We're on a statement that includes, and then I'll close this actually, or I'll unpin it. We have a function that we have a function call here. So remember what I said, when we have a function call and we want to see what's happening in that definition, we would simply step into. And so I'm going to do that here. And so now we are here, and then I can step over. And it goes to the next line, num1, return num1 plus num2. And then this over here on the right where it says call stack, you're going to see that things are changing here. Like I had mentioned before, this function call, this gets placed on the call stack. And then when the function is done running, it gets popped off of it. Okay, so I'm going to close that up. And I'm just going to press continue because I believe that should be the end of the demonstration. So that's how to that's how to use the debugger in Visual Studio. And then a moment ago, I showed you how to do it in Visual Studio Code. So, whichever of these are most convenient to you, you're always welcome to come to office hours if something isn't working out, or, you have questions about how this is supposed to work. Maybe it's not doing what you want it to do, or you just have like another random question. I'm always here. So go ahead and reach out if you need to. And then if not, if this is sufficient, just go ahead and use the information here. All right. Thanks so much for listening and see you around.